They're going to explain 4 ways art and culture contribute to Caribbean development. Ladies, I'm encouraging you to read the chapter in your textbook on art forms. Go ahead for me, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Our group will be doing the contributions of art and culture to Caribbean development, and it's by Kisana Aitman, Melissa Blair, Ashley Cates, and Amelia Miller. The contributions at this PowerPoint will focus on are the influence of Caribbean entertainers, festival, in particular the Notting Hill Carnival, sculptures, and music. The influence of Caribbean entertainers and the example that we have is Louise Bennett. There are important individuals in our Caribbean culture who were beneficial in the development of the Caribbean. They were able to expose the cultures of their respective countries to the wider Caribbean and international countries through the forms of dance, poetry, folklore, and music. An example of such an important individual is Louise Bennett, aka Miss Lou. And here we have some pictures. Who was Louise Bennett, aka Miss Lou? Louise Bennett was a Jamaican poet, actress, social commentator, comedian, folklorist, and writer. She traveled throughout the world publicizing aspects of Jamaican culture. And this is a picture of Miss Lou. Her impact on Caribbean development. Louise Bennett performed and wrote her poems in Jamaican patois or Creole to preserve the practice of presenting poetry, folk songs, and stories in patois, which is the nation language, establishing the validity of local languages for literary expression. Dr. Basil Bryan, former Consul General of Jamaica, praised Bennett as an inspiration to Jamaicans as she proudly presented the Jamaican language and culture to a wider world, and today we are the beneficiaries of that audacity.
Okay, the second contributor is festivals, example, the Notting Hill Carnival. The Notting Hill Carnival is an annual street festival that takes place in London, England at the end of August. It is the largest festival in Europe and was started by a woman named Ron Laslett in the 1960s who wanted to celebrate the diversity in her community, Notting Hill. Today, nearly 2.5 million people attend this festival, led by members of the British West Indian community. The Notting Hill Festival has influenced the cultural and human development of the Caribbean. This festival has exposed people from different countries to the lifestyle of the Caribbean in terms of food, such as jerk chicken and roti, music, such as calypso, soca, and dancehall, dance, and creativity. The sharing of these forms of culture have provided members of the diaspora with a connection to the Caribbean. Not only has it allowed persons to develop and display their various Caribbean talents, which aided in the maturation of their human potential, the Notting Hill Carnival also promoted unity and productivity among the people as it relies on community cohesion in order for the festival to be a success. Historical monuments and sculptures, third contributor. What is the significance of historical monuments? The visual arts have been used to express and commemorate various events and also honor individuals who have contributed to the well being of their country. Caribbean artists have used their talents to build and create various sculptures to remind us of events such as slavery and the Cuban Revolution. It is known that the Caribbean islands share a history of slavery and colonialism, which has shaped and influenced the societies we live in today. To pay tribute to our ancestors, Various artists from around the Caribbean have created art and historical monuments which have been recognized by the rest of the world and have become famous tourist attractions which help to bring foreign revenue to the region. The first example, the Grenada Underwater Sculpture Park. The Grenada Underwater Sculpture Park, located off the west coast of Grenada, is a tribute to the nearly 2 million African slaves who were thrown into the sea during the transatlantic slave trade. These sculptures, designed by Jason DeCaires Taylor in 2006, sit nearly 14 feet down at the bottom of the Molyneux Bay and are only accessible by scuba diving, snorkeling, and glass bottom boats. The site has been listed as one of National Geographic's 25 Wonders of the World. The second example, the Redemption Song statue. This statue, known as Redemption Song, is located at Emancipation Park in Kingston, Jamaica, which was constructed in July 2002 by Laura Facey. The work is symbolic of the emancipation of slaves from slavery in 1838. The statue was named after Jamaica's late renowned reggae artist Bob Marley's song, Redemption Song. Many tourists have traveled to Jamaica to observe this national monument. The third example, Che Guevara Mausoleum. Many tourists visit Cuba to visit the site of Che Guevara Mausoleum, which stands where the last battle of the Cuban Revolution was fought, and where the celebrated revolutionaries' remains now rest after their arrival from Bolivia in 1997. Guevara's life is told through various sculpted tableaus depicting his beginnings in Guatemala and in consultation with Castro.
Music. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, hearing you.
Okay. Next example, reggae and calypso. Music plays a huge part in the development of the Caribbean. Most music in the region dates back to its migratory history, with different groups of people bringing their traditional forms that went through an action of syncretism to produce many of the forms today. Examples of these music forms include reggae, soca, and calypso. Music defines the Caribbean and has put it on the map globally and internationally. Reggae, the most internationally famous style of Caribbean music, is none other than reggae. Reggae first came about in the late 1960s in Jamaica. It is famous in countries like the USA, Africa, Japan, and Germany because of its infectious rhythms and dynamic performers. Peter Manuel said, reggae can be considered to be a reinterpretation of American rhythm and blues. It became popular in the 1970s by Bob Marley. Reggae is one of Jamaica's biggest sources of income as it is a major earner of foreign exchange. Calypso. Another popular form of music in the Caribbean is calypso. Calypso is a kind of West Indian, which is originally Trinidadian music in syncopated African rhythm, typically with words improvised on a tropical theme. It came from the Western African music and singing about the resistance by the lower socio-economic classes to the colonial powers. It was meant to mock important people and institutions such as the Roman Catholic Church. And today it provides a social and political commentary of events, mainly in Trinidad and Tobago. However, calypso is still not as popular as reggae music. Thank you for listening.
And and you don't want to go into an exam and make a statement like that, if you understand where I'm coming from. That reggae is that calypso is not as popular as reggae. You don't know who might market paper.
Well, sir, I got
And
that part from the textbook actually.
yeah, but you don't. This textbook was written by Jamaican people, So, but if you understand where I'm coming from,
Yes, sir, I understand.
yes, I don't. You don't want nobody to prejudice their paper, which marking is very subjective because you give one paper to 5 different persons and they come up with 5 different grades, and everybody can justify the reason why the grade is different. All right. Next group, Mackenzie, Campbell, Ruth and Chambers, Grace and Curtis.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Today, Group 2 will be presenting on 4 ways that Rex Nettleford and Louise Bennett contributed to Caribbean arts and culture. First, we'll be talking about the contribution of Rex Nettleford.
Good morning, everyone. So this is a quote from Professor Edward Bowles. His life will stand as a superlative example of how talent, wise nurturing, and education can combine to produce the highest excellence out of circumstances of limited social and material privilege. Okay, so we laid out the paragraph for Rex Nettleford. So the point is, Rex Nettleford contributed significantly to the development of Caribbean art and culture through his passion for dance and choreography. The example, Nettleford became the co-founder, artistic director, choreographer, and lead dancer for the National Dance Theatre Company of Jamaica, NDTC. The NDTC focuses on fusing traditional Jamaican music and dance within the European framework of ballet. Explanation: Rex Nettleford used the NDTC as his outlet for creativity and expression. He used his time there to portray traditional syncretic religions such as Kumina or Comenia as creative expression. Under his leadership, the NDTC thrived and is recognized in Jamaica as an outstanding dance group. He did not stop at the NDTC, as he was involved in many more cultural organizations, such as the Jamaica Festival Commission. This contributed to Caribbean arts and culture as metaphor dance expressions remind us of our African ancestry. Dance and music is a very important part of Caribbean culture because it allows Caribbean people to express themselves in a creative way. This is why Nettleford's artwork through dance movements had such an impact on the region's culture. And to link that, the evidence proves that Rex Nettleford contributed to the development of Caribbean art and culture through his passion for dance. And next are some pictures representing his dance and choreography.
Okay, so Rex Nettleford contributed significantly to the development of Caribbean arts and culture through his writings. Nettleford used his writings as a way of unleashing his creative power and expressing the struggles of the people in the Caribbean region. Rex Nettiford used his writing to promote Jamaican culture and social mores and worked closely with Caribbeans to explore the realities of, their cultural development in their daily living. Rex Nettiford, often referred to as a third world scholar, used his creativity and intellect to promote Jamaican cultures and norms and to further explore Caribbean lifestyles. In his works, he described how a lack of identity in the Caribbean can allow them to buy into the mixture of races and half-identification. This is seen in his first publication, Mirror Mirror Race, Identity and Protest in Jamaica, 1970. Nettiford went on to become the founder of the Trade Union Education Institute, which helped factory and farm workers to unite with scholars and promote upward social mobility. Nettiford believed that the arts fostered cultural survival, awareness of self, and social change. The evidence proves that Rex Nettiford contributed to the development of arts and culture through his writing. Next, we'll be presenting on Louise Bennett Coverley.
Good morning. Mrs. Louise Bennett Coverley, popularly known as Miss Lou, is described as Jamaica's First Lady of Comedy. She contributed to the development of Caribbean, specifically Jamaica, through her work to preserve the practice of presenting poetry, songs, and stories in patois or Creole. So using patois, Miss Lou was able to express the Jamaican dialect through her writing of poetry. That was one example. In writing her poems, she was able to capture all the spontaneity of the expression of Jamaica's joy and sorrow and to present an authentic Jamaican mindset. Through this, she was recognized as Jamaica's leading comedian, as the only poet who expressed her society through his own language by reflecting the way Jamaicans live, think, and feel. This contributed to Caribbean art and culture as Miss Lou's poetic expression through Creole reminded us of our African ancestry. Creole is a very important language of the Caribbean, which was introduced by the Africans. It allows Caribbean people to express themselves through poetic weaves and to communicate on a daily basis. So therefore, this proves that Louise Bennett contributed to the development of Caribbean arts and culture through a work of establishing the validity of local languages, Creole or Patois, for literary expression.
Good morning. Mrs. Louise Bennett Coverley, otherwise known as Miss Lou, contributed significantly to the development of Caribbean arts and culture through her passion for educating the youth. Miss Lou was a Jamaican educator, and through lecturing extensively as a dramaturg, she educated the youth on Jamaican folklore and music. Mrs. Louise Bennett was vital in contributing to the development of Caribbean art and culture as she traveled throughout the world publicizing areas of Jamaican culture. She lectured extensively in the United States and the United Kingdom on Jamaican folklore and music and represented Jamaica all over the world. On her return to Jamaica, after graduating from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, Mrs. Louise Bennett taught drama to youth and adult groups both in social welfare agencies and for the University of the West Indies extramural departments. Through her work, she gained international popularity and recognition, and not just for herself, but for Jamaica as well. This evidence proves that Louise Bennett contributed to the development of Caribbean arts and culture through her passion for educating the youth.
Okay, and that's the end of our presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Next group, group 3, Asha Hunter, Destiny, Thompson McLeod.
Good morning, sir. We're waiting for Asha to share the slide.
All right.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So, our group with the members Asha Gordon, Cornelia Hunter, Destiny Johnson, and Jordy Thompson McLeod will be presenting on Caribbean arts and culture. Next slide. So, the question that we received for this presentation is explain 4 ways in which Beryl McBurney and Paula Marshall contribute to the development of Caribbean arts and culture. This is our introduction. This presentation seeks to explain 4 ways in which Paul Marshall and Beryl McBurney contributed to the development of art and culture. The definition of our terms. So art can be defined as the various branches of creative activities such as painting, music, literature, and dance. And culture is the way of life, including aspects of lifestyle, products, ideas, and symbols common to members of a specific society, community, or organization. So our main points. In this presentation, we will be looking at how Paul Marshall and McBurney both contributed to art and culture in the Caribbean. So for Marshall, we couldn't find much points that didn't center around her liberating West Indian people, as well as African Americans and reconnecting them to their roots. McBurney, so point number one, Beryl McBurney impacted the Caribbean arts and culture by promoting primitive and Caribbean dance. Two, Beryl McBurney contributed to the Caribbean culture and arts by inspiring artists in music videos, well, in music and theater. Number three, Beryl McBurney incorporated steel bands into modern Caribbean music and theater. Marshall's and McBurney's contributions have led to development of art and culture in the Caribbean, and these will be presented throughout the PowerPoint. So we will be using the Peel key, P being point, E being example, the other E being evidence, and L being link. So during the entirety of the presentation, you will see the various points in our thing color coded. Now we'll
Paul
have
Marshall.
Jordy speaking about Paul Marshall.
Good morning. Paul Marshall. So the focus of Paul Marshall's work was always centered on the liberation of West Indian people and reconnecting them to their roots. She was an influential writer whose novels and short stories about ethnic identity, race, and colonialism reflected her upbringing in Brooklyn as a daughter of 4 immigrants from Barbados. Examples of her work are Brown Girl, Brown Stones, and Praise Songs for the Widow. Marshall created strong female characters, evoked the linguistic rhythms of Barbadian speech, and forged an early link between the African American and Caribbean literary canons. Brown Girl, Brown Stones is as relevant today as it was 6 years ago when it was published, because Marshall took her time and invested truth and vision into this work, as well as her other writings, so that we Caribbean people would have a blueprint on which to add. All of Marshall's work is either set on an island or explores the duality of Caribbean and American in the identity and the rootedness of home. This therefore proves that Paul Marshall contributed to the development of Caribbean art and culture.
Beryl McBurney. Beryl McBurney was a Trinidadian dancer and teacher who impacted the Caribbean arts and culture by promoting primitive and Caribbean dance. McBurney does this by using West Indian folk dances in her performances, influencing dancers and even teaching folk dance. Before independence, the Caribbean islands were still accustomed to colonial culture. Only European folk dance and ballet were being taught formally, and local dance was looked down on. After returning to Trinidad from finishing her studies, she became a dance instructor with the education department and introduced folk dance in schools.
Mhm.
McBurney, along with some of her dancers, went to teach at a summer school in the arts of what is now known as University of the West Indies in Jamaica. To this day, many schools dance teams in the Caribbean still perform their folk dance. She influenced and inspired many. For example, Molly Aye, who studied performing arts and ended up being a principal teacher of Little Caribbean. McBurney's work is now carefully preserved and proudly displayed by companies such as the 80-strong Malik Folk Performances, who tours and performs folk dance and drama in Trinidad and Tobago. It is clear that Beryl McBurney contributed to the Caribbean arts and culture.
Beryl McBurney contributed to the Caribbean culture and arts by inspiring artists in music and theatre. She influenced artists like Derek Walcott, Rex Nettleford, and Andre Tanker. In 1957, when McBurney went to Jamaica to teach dancing, she met Derek Walcott. She inspired Walcott to use folk material to use genuine West Indian theatre. As a result, he wrote a revolutionary play that is based on St. Lucian folklore and incorporates song, dance, and dialect. Tijan and his brothers. This play is a part of CSEC English literature syllabus. McBurney showed Rex Nettleford that Caribbean dance had its own inner logic, consistency, and aesthetics. This led to Nettleford to sign the Jamaica National Dance Company, which has a world-class reputation. To this day, it is Jamaica's leading dance theatre company. Andre Tanker, a musician whose music draws on folk traditions, first heard after drummers and Orisha priests at Little Carib and began to understand the African roots of African culture. It is evident that Beryl McBurney contributed to the Caribbean arts and culture.
Beryl McBurney incorporated steel bands into modern Caribbean music and theatre. This began when she was the first person to put a steel band on stage in the form of a band called the Invaders. In those days, steel bands were seen as low class and were not considered as real musicians. However,
Mhm.
McBurney saw steel band as the recognition of the two indigenous art forms as a step towards national pride and bridged the gulf between theatre and carnival. In November 1948, McBurney formally opened the Little Caribbean Theatre, in which Invaders performed the first time a steel band performed on stage. McBurney went even as far as to choreograph a ballet, Jour Ouvert, to music by the Invaders. She also helped Trinidad All Steel Orchestra to perform at the 1951 festival. To this day, steel band is played all across the Caribbean in events such as carnivals and in schools bands. It is therefore evident that McBurney contributed to the Caribbean arts and culture.
In conclusion, it is safe to argue that the Caribbean arts and culture have been influenced by Paul Marshall and Beryl McBurney. The points which were discussed are Paul Marshall's work focused on liberation of West Indian people and reconnecting them to their roots. Beryl McBurney's influence on the Caribbean arts and culture by promoting primitive and Caribbean dance, inspiring artists in music and theater, and by incorporating steel bands into modern Caribbean music and theater. Okay, now we have a quick quote. The question is, are we prepared to accept what is originally ours and not be afraid because it is simple and given to cottons and not silk? Or are we afraid because most of the vital expression of our folk material is of African origin? Beryl McBurney. And now we have come to the end of our presentation.
All right, thank you very much, group 3. Group 4, Kristen Fletcher Jackson O'Connor Watson.
Sir, I'm gonna try and share, and if it doesn't work, then I think Jada will share.
Okay.
Okay, is it showing?
Yes, it is.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So we will be continuing with the presentations, contributors to Caribbean culture. And this presentation is done by Deja Jackson, Jamila Fletcher, Jada Watson, Kristen Elliott, and Toriana O'Connor. And we'll be focusing on Aubrey Cummings and Martin Carter. Okay, so our point is both Aubrey Cummings and Martin Carter contributed to the art and culture of Caribbean society. And we'll first be looking at Aubrey Cummings, a musician of a generation. All right, so some background information is Aubrey Cummings was a Guyanese guitarist and vocalist born in 1947. He was a member of the group Bumble and the Saints in 1965. Then he became the lead singer, of the group Rhythmaires and the Dominators. Subsequent to this, he formed a band called Telstars. The Telstars became popular for their hit single, So Lucky in My Life.
Elliot, I don't think we're hearing.
Oh. Is Deidre here?
Yes, okay, I'll do the evidence and the explanation.
Okay.
He was born Best Male Vocalist Award in Barbados. He also won various Caribbean song festivals. Cummings was also a painter. He produced artwork which has been displayed in leading art galleries in Barbados. His experience as a band member and leader highlighted the dynamics or changes in Guyanese society during the late colonial period and the early post-independence era. His music reflected Guyanese society during the late colonial period and the early post-emancipation era, which gave people hope for a better future. Moving on to the explanation.
Yeah, it's moving a little slow. There you go.
Okay. Aubrey Cummings' music career acted as commentary for Guyanese society. This art form, for him, acted as an outlet against social ills in his country and the dynamic of Guyana in the late colonial period and early post-emancipation period. Among the most prominent, he sang of issues and the influence of race, class, and color on the Guyanese population and was a major contributor to its healing in the aforementioned eras and political upheaval. His music was very influential, especially in his birth country of Guyana, as well as in Barbados, where he spent much of his life and where he died in 2010. Professor Vibert Cambridge described Aubrey Cummings, as not only a musician of a generation, but a cultural hero. Examples of his work include So Lucky in My Life, A Flower Named June, and Think I Am in Love, Analai, Children of Sanchez, and West Indian People.
Okay, so Aubrey Cummings was a major influence in the development of Guyanese arts and culture through his musical prowess. Guyana is known to be famously governed under two separate parties stratified by race. This system is nothing new and can be reflected in Cummings' music. Cummings' dealing in the music industry played a huge role in the resurrection of its prevalence within the Caribbean society. This is because he chose to remain in the Caribbean and develop his craft rather than migrating to England.
Now we're moving to Martin Carter, the protesting poet.
Okay, so background information on Martin Carter. Martin Carter was born June 7, 1927 in Georgetown, British Guiana, modern-day Guyana. Martin was from a diverse family, which was as a result of African, Indian, and European lineages. He developed his love of literature from his parents, who were both avid readers. Carter throughout his career received little attention from outside his country. This was because he refused to leave. However, this gave him time to develop his craft, placing heavy emphasis on defiance, beauty, and hope for a better tomorrow, all brought on from having experienced or observed the political constraints in Ghana at the time. He was oftentimes referred to as a protest poet.
Mhm.
Evidence for Martin Carter's work. Carter was regarded as the greatest Guyanese poet. He is also known for his poems, which were based on resistance, revolution, and protest. Martin Carter was heavily involved in Guyanese politics, which led to him being detained twice. In 1967, he served under the Burnham government as a delegate to the UN, and in 1968 joined the government as Minister of Information.
Okay, the explanation. Martin Carter is known as the Caribbean's protest poet and Guyana's national poet. His work was progressive and reflected his defiance towards the system of oppression that came from colonialism, as well as his love for Guyana. Carter's opposition to Britain as a colonial power resulted in him being arrested twice in the 1950s. His work contributed to the atmosphere of resistance and strength that the Caribbean is known for. Carter also displayed hope for a free Caribbean in his poems. His struggle and art incited much change in the region. The impact Martin Carter's work had is still prominent today as he is recognized as a poet laureate and his poems are studied by Caribbean students across the region, for example, in the CXC examinations. Examples of his work include The Hill of Fire Glows Red, and This is a Dark Time, My Love, which we actually studied in CXC.
Martin Carter, 1927 to 1997, was a great influencer in the art and cultural identity of the Guyanese people, as his poetic pieces were direct reflections of the protests or revolutionary movements that resulted in freedom of the people. Carter's work was titled Poems of Resistance, reflective of the dark times of the 1950s. Carter not only illustrated the life of the Guyanese people prior to their independence, but also after. He became the voice of of people through his poems as it related to the new governmental regime.
And that's the end of our presentation today. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you very much. So ladies, I will give my comments on the presentation after the other group present. We just have about 7 more minutes. And so I will allow group 5 and group 6 to present. Today's Thursday, right? So you meet, when we meet again? On Monday. One second. On Monday, E1. So on Monday, you're going to have an activity on the justice system, and we're going to meet on Tuesday. So it's because we have to go back to school, I have to change up the schedule. Well, I have to go back. So I have to change how I do the classes. So on Monday, this group is going to have an activity to do online. And then on Tuesday, there's a session, we have a session 1 to 2 on Tuesday. That's the session on Tuesday that you're going to use to present. So group 5 and 6 going to present on Tuesday. And you're going to, and then after their presentation, then I will give my comments on the presentation. All right. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, ladies. Thank you very much for presenting, and it flows well today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.